Moving on to a new subject, a lot of it has been asked about what comes next for Lance Armstrong, but I don't think so many people have asked what comes next for you now. You've spent 13 years investigating.
Yeah, I mean, even though it did take up a huge chunk of my life, the Armstrong story, and certainly in my head, and God, when I look back, there were times when I couldn't stand in a queue at a supermarket, and if I saw somebody wearing a yellow Livestrong wristband, I would have to go and engage in a conversation with that person. I mean, I'd look and say, "Hi, how are you?" And they'd say, "Fine. Strange that you should be talking to me, but I'm okay." And I say, "And are you an Armstrong fan?" And they'd say, "Yeah, I do. I admire the guy. He's set up a great cancer charity, and I like this wristband because it enables me to support cancer." And I'd say, "Well, he's a fraud." And they'd say, "What?" And I'd say, "Well, this guy, he uses doping products to win big bike races, and he's telling a lie." And they'd say, "I don't believe that." And I say, "Well, would you like me to give you the evidence?" And they say, "No." And then I walk away and I feel a bit frustrated. But that's how I was for years. I couldn't see somebody out there who I knew to be an Armstrong supporter and not confront them. And it was every time I was out when I saw somebody. You go to a dinner party and some guy would come over. I mean, a woman rang my wife recently and she said, "Do you remember 9 years ago you came to my house for dinner? Yourself and Dave came." And my wife said, "Yes." Carl is the woman's name. She said, "Remember the other friends we had that you didn't know?" She said, "Remember the guy? He was a third level teacher, lecturer, and he started getting at you for he started getting at your husband about Lance Armstrong. And Dave was trying to say that Armstrong was a cheat, and this guy was trying to say that Dave was wrong for calling him a cheat. And our dinner was spoiled by this guy kind of basically attacking your husband." And now I'd forgotten this completely, but there was plenty of stuff like this. But the woman was really kind of upset. She said, "I was upset that night because I thought your husband was entitled to his view. Our other dinner guest shouldn't have been attacking him. And now," she said, when I see what's happened," she said, "I'm going to call the guy up and I'm going to remind him of how wrong he was and that he owes your husband an apology." But actually, people don't come. On Twitter, I've had loads of people who've said, "I'm really sorry for doubting you, and I'm really sorry that I thought you were an asshole," because that's what they thought at the time. But lots of people have come back and said, you were right, actually, and well done. So that's been pleasing too.
Has that been from both the general public, but also from your peers and colleagues?
More general public than peers and colleagues, I have to say. God, I mean, loads of colleagues have been incredibly generous. I've had loads of messages, emails, tweets, and text messages from fellow journalists. The journalists I haven't heard from, really, are the ones I got into arguments with, the ones that defended Armstrong. I remember a colleague of mine, he said to me, "If you hate Lance Armstrong so much and you don't believe him," and I said, "I don't hate him, I just don't believe in him. There's nothing personal in this. This is about doping and about protecting the sport for clean riders." He said, "Well, if that's the way you feel, that Armstrong is a fraud and he's going to win the Tour again, why do you go on the Tour?" He said, "Why don't you stay at home and just leave it?" And I said, "Well, if I don't go," I said, "I leave the field open for basically assholes like you to go there and write bull, because you're not going to ask any questions. And the one thing we need in this story is journalists asking questions."
For more videos like this, go to youtube.com/GCN.